Good morning, I'm Susan Allen. My pronouns are she and her. And I guess I have been a Unitarian for a little over 70 years. My experience of attending the UU General Assembly of 2025 virtually was exhilarating and grounding at the same time. It was exciting and uplifting to see the very large gathering of UUs bubbling with energy in the Baltimore Convention Hall. On Zoom, we could see the large congregation during the assembly and ceremony times, and it was joyful to see folks visiting with each other, laughing and in conversation, and singing and worshiping. Even on Zoom, I felt a part of it. It was great to see our UUCCWC banner with the words, "Build a Better World," in the virtual banner parade. The theme was Meet the Moment. Sophia Betancourt, president of the UUA, addressed the assembled meeting with two pieces of news of the moment. The Supreme Court decision in the case of U.S. versus Scrimetti, and the also deeply disturbing news of military strikes against Iran. She said we are gathered in person or virtually, honoring our common ideals of love, justice, diversity, and freedom, equity, interdependence, and generosity, and also in the uniqueness that lives within each of us. Sophia Betancourt reminded and reinforced for us that our faith calls us to be peacemakers, not war makers. And the UU tradition has called us to repudiate aggressive and preventative war. She addressed the Scrimetti decision saying, as part of our faith tradition, UUs embrace transgender, non-binary, intersex, and gender-diverse people. This is a central expression of our faith. After the welcoming, the presentations and workshops began, and Zoom and Huva, there were many presentations offered each day. After the morning gatherings, the presentation topics were many and widely varied, ranging from church finances, keeping both the lights on in the church, religious education, joyful spaces for children, worldwide issues of poverty, strategies to address and eliminate climate injustice, Unitarian Universalist history, housing in our crowded cities, immigration, pastoral care, pagan and earth-centered traditions, gender identity, reparations for indigenous peoples, deep dialogue, anti-racism, the introduction of the virtual hymnal by Erica Hewitt, and so many, many, many more topics. There were also meetings that we could listen in on to discuss the actions of immediate witness to be voted on by delegates and the proposed congregational study action issues. It was so interesting to hear the group carefully working out the wording and meaning of the documents to be voted on. I attended several presentations and two have stayed with me the most. One talk was entitled, Interrogating My Euro-American Heritage by J.D. Stillwater. He spoke of generational trauma from war, abuse, starvation, poverty, and more, and the steps to heal it so it might not be passed down further and further, generation to generation through DNA. The second one that sticks with me was a presentation called We Eat Food and Talk About Stuff. 8 to 10 young people spoke about their place and their time they have in their UU church, where they get together and can feel at ease and be themselves, not judged. They can talk about their ideas and their spirituality and don't have to pretend to be cool. They were all teenagers. They trust each other. Adults help steer with suggested topics, and they bring good snacks. The kids all agreed that was nice. It was so heartening to see the upcoming UU youth. I'm very, very glad I got to attend the GA. I recommend the experience. And I'm grateful to the Board of Trustees for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Priscilla Bradley, and my pronouns are she and her. And I've had those pronouns my whole life, although I haven't always used them. As Tracy mentioned, I've only been in this church for about 3 years, so I'm new here. And I had never been exposed to people using pronouns before. So learning about this church, I learned about the 7 principles that we are attempting to live up to. And that was one of the things that really attracted me to this service, this church, and this group of people, because I think most of these people here are trying their best to live up to those values. So in me using the pronouns she and her, it's easy for me because I have never been questioned about my sexuality. But that principle is kind of a part of our 7 principles in respecting other people and their decision about what they want to be called and how they feel inside. So forgive me for being a bit of theater here. That was not a part of my original talk. I read Lisa's enter on main groups I.O. this morning, and I would encourage everyone to read it and consider the 7 principles and how you feel inside and how difficult it would be to imagine trying to be somebody who you don't feel to be inside. So I'm so thankful to have been to participate, even though it was virtual, to participate in the General Assembly this year, to know what this denomination is all about. There were so many workshops and speeches and lectures and choices to make during the week. It was hard to decide which ones to participate in. As Susan mentioned, the teenagers. I attended one of the teenage groups where the teenagers were the presenters. They were so eloquent in their presentation. They were talking about their culture, their problems, bullying, everything, all the way to political activism. Responsible young kids who are UUs, who are our future. So for business, because I was a delegate, I especially wanted to attend all of the workshops that were related to actions of immediate witness and the congregational study action issues. And I was so impressed with all the work that had gone into preparing those topics to present to the delegates for voting. And I would like to say that the ones that were voted in have a lot to do with immigration rights, defiance of authoritarianism, freedom and solidarity actions for our LGBTQ plus community, and dealing with the issues of discrimination which make the prison industrial complex, ICE, and genocide possible. So UUs all over the world are thinking about these issues and wondering, what can we do? What can we do together? and standing up for what we know is right. I learned that everyone looks forward to the Where lecture. This year, we heard Amara Jones talking about the history of trans issues, the current challenges, and the importance of resistance. The lecture was powerful and is available at uua.org. Anyone can tune into the website and listen to that. And our trans people are in great fear today. One of my favorite sessions was presented by CUPS, and I was pleased to know that CUPS was included in the variety of choices during GA. Two of the presenters had roots in Appalachian folk magic, and of course they warmed my heart because they sound so much like me. Another session I really enjoyed was about supporting the indigenous tribes and their cultures. There were several presenters from Idaho, Washington, and Oregon who have gained the trust of their local tribes. And they have been invited to participate in some of the traditional activities, such as the canoe journey. Some were able to participate with a gathering of youth from 11 different tribes, as the youth were being taught how to create prairies for camas and preparing a camas bake. During this event, they participated in traditional dances and songs. Other presenters of indigenous issues worked with elders to create interpretive trails. Others worked with the tribe to make films about taking down dams and salmon recovery. One presenter worked with the tribe on a faceless doll project to honor missing women. After making the dolls, they mounted them along with profiles of the missing women. For gaining trust in the indigenous communities, throughout the session, the presenters emphasized the importance of not trying to direct and teach activities, rather let them lead. Humility is necessary to repair damage, and they planned a lot of potlucks. And I really enjoyed every session that I participated in and continued to enjoy the recordings after the week was over. Also, I enjoyed the business of GA and the experience of voting. I feel honored to have had that experience. Thank you for sponsoring me.
Wow. For those of you who have never seen me but maybe heard or saw my name somewhere, I'm Cheryl Clark. My pronouns are she and her. And I have to apologize right off the bat because Priscilla and Susan and I did not actually have an opportunity to compare notes on what we were saying today. So some of this may sound familiar, and Christine added great commentary that I had here, and I'm going to try to just dump it while I go along. But I want you to know, and what I'm really trying to do here is to make people see what a wealth of opportunity there is in a GA experience. And I was sitting here listening jealously on to the workshops that I didn't get to attend because I was a voting delegate in person, and I felt it my duty to attend all of those very, very long business sessions, which are a learning opportunity, but they surely can be dull. And I also saw democracy at work in the way they were conducted and the rules of conduct or the behaviors of conduct that were followed so very, very carefully. So I'm going to start with my script, but if I diverge again, I apologize, Diane. I'm trying to keep the 5 minutes, but I'm sure I've already blown it. So, by attending GA 2025, Susan, Priscilla, and I got a firsthand look at the way this denomination conducts its business processes. We also observed how to meet the challenges that life can present at that conference and in our wider world, using publicly stated values to govern our behaviors. The theme, Meet the Moment, was a laboratory for learning vital tools to face the chaos in our current troubled times. So how can a single person, let alone all Unitarians, prepare to meet this moment? In these days of extreme political polarization, can anyone really be prepared for or respond to what they might hear in the daily news? In June, and Christine gave you the numbers, how many Universalists attended, and I'll cut this and just supply the data that 2,483 of those attendees were on site, as well as 143 children. And that's an interesting note for parents who might think about wanting to attend a GA with their children. Children have a blast at GA. Together, the virtual and on-site attendees, including me, Susan, and Priscilla, and Reverend Lauren, met with UU cohorts from multiple places as we used these 3 guiding principles in learning to meet the moment. Number 1, what is the moment that we are in as UUs and our wider world? Number 2, what are the most urgent and important needs and opportunities of this moment? And number 3, how do our UU values call us to respond to this moment? I'd like to tell you about how I saw things being answered at the GA conference, and my printed notes only address the major public events with one omission. And Reverend Soto, I'm glad that we're seeing each other. We've talked a couple of times, but we're seeing each other for the first time. And Reverend Soto delivered the reading that you just heard at Service of the Living Tradition ceremony, or service, whatever you want to call it, on the 19th of June. And that's where Reverend Danielle Garrett, who many of you might remember because she was our pastoral care minister last year, received her preliminary, her UUA preliminary fellowship. It's a big moment. It's a big moment. And Megan is nodding her head there because several of us got to see her ordination at First Church. It's a big deal. And I'll just leave it at that. Okay, so June 18th, first day of GA. The Unitarian Universalist Association moved swiftly to condemn the U.S. Supreme Court's decision to curtail the rights of transgender people in the case of U.S. versus Sacramenti. The press statement that was released by UUA's president, Dr. Reverend Sophia Betancourt, gave this response. The Supreme Court's decision today will irreparably harm transgender youth by allowing states to deny them the kind of care they need for their physical and mental well-being. As part of our faith tradition, Unitarian Universalists embrace transgender, non-binary, intersex, and gender-diverse people. This is an expression of our faith. On June 21st, just hours after the United States announced it had bombed Iraq, the UUA secretary issued a statement condemning that action, saying it represents a moral failure and UUs are compelled through our religious beliefs to speak out against it. And we heard a bit about Saturday night's Ware lecture already, but I want to add the emphasis that Imara placed on how Christian nationalists have captured a major political party, she said, And the attack on trans rights is a deeply researched and heavily funded effort to undermine democracy. And she warned UUs to take it deadly seriously. And so now I added a footnote, just like you, Priscilla, after, and did this last night, so pardon for the aside. And I was thinking to myself, take it deadly seriously, she said. And I added this footnote based on the article that Priscilla made reference to, or maybe it was a different article. She had a series of articles. But it was a story that should shock you, unless, of course, you are numb to the news of any given day these days. It was about a call from 2 Republican congressional members who are now calling for the institutionalization of transgender people in the United States. That these Christian nationalists would call for removal of a single marginalized group rings hauntingly familiar to those that were heard in German history. At that time, LGBTQ people were labeled mentally ill, locked away, and used for brutal experimentation. These groups were sent to camps alongside Jews, Romani people, and the disabled. Now, as a longtime student of Germany and German history myself, I am always reminded of the quotation attributed to the Lutheran pastor Martin Niemöller. You've no doubt heard it before. It goes like this. First, they came for the socialist, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Niemöller was seen by many to have been too tolerant of the politics of Adolf Hitler as the dictator rose to his political power, until it was too late to speak. As we watch our current administration play out a similar plan, I fear we are watching history repeat itself in real time, and far too many people are remaining silent. Fortunately, there are members of Congress condemning this kind of hate speech. But I digress here, and I'm going to go back to my script and try to keep this in the chronological order it occurred. So, on the Sunday morning of the worship service, June 22nd, during her sermon, Reverend Dr. Nicole Kirk made this point when referring to the military strikes against Iran. Friends, she said, we gather this morning as a community of faith under the weight of disturbing news. She noted the action marked a dangerous escalation of a conflict that has already claimed too many lives. Kirk added, our Unitarian Universalist tradition has called us to repudiate aggressive and preventive war, and to recognize that while we cannot stop the violence, we can hold space for the grief, the anger, the fear, the conflicting emotions that we carry. Our faith calls us to be peacemakers, not war makers. Let this worship service be an act of moral resistance. Fast forward now to news that has occurred in the week since you gathered here just 1 week ago. The recent assassination of Charlie Kirk, a young Christian nationalist, now dominates news cycles and has set political polarization into explosive turmoil. Hateful rhetoric and fear of increasing violence cannot help but occupy our thoughts. At this moment in history, what is one single UU supposed to do? What can our congregation do? What can the city of Hillsborough do? What can a coalition of UU congregations in Oregon do? Or in the United States? Or in the wider world? First, last, and always, we should let our shared Unitarian Universalist values and inspirations guide our actions. Most of us need help to guide us through these troubled times without succumbing to feelings of hopelessness. If you seek them, I believe you can find answers that will guide your actions. Gradually, you will see that a coalition of like-minded people can do incredible things. For me, when I'm struggling to find answers, I first require a period of quiet, deep self-reflection to examine where my strongest UU values lie and how they lead me to where answers can be found. Personally, I have discovered a compelling need to use my voice to call attention to the social injustice I observe all around me. Once known, I find the strength and courage I need to move into action. I may make mistakes along the way. In fact, you can expect that. But move out, I must. This activity of a self-reflection period followed by a moving into action cycle is like washing your hair. Wash, rinse, repeat. Here's how the GA 2025 Meet the Moment Gathering plans strategies to move in suggested ways of right behavior here and now. In the multiple workshops and conversations at GA, individuals and UUA leaders exchanged ideas and inspired one another. The list to the guide they provided is listed on the back of my t-shirt, my Meet the Moment t-shirt, but I don't want to turn my back to you, so Priscilla is going to display it here. This is what's on the back of this shirt, and this was the official 2025 shirt. And the list begins. Strategic resistance. These are ways people can be helping. Strategic resistance and mutual aid and prophetic witness and coalition building and direct action and community defense and spiritual fortification and creative joy and love. Love in all caps, folks.
Can the choir see the shirt too?
Oh, I'll take mine off. And then the choir. Oh, well, I'll take my shirt off so they could read it. Yeah, there you go. Well, the people on Zoom had to probably just listen to it, and I hope they were listening carefully. It's complex, and none of those are easy things to try to tackle by yourself. But if you find a collective community going the same direction, jump on board. So, I'm going to close here by saying that on the Sunday morning of the GA worship service, Reverend Lauren and I had a quick exchange of thoughts on our respective experiences from the week. You may recall that on the day prior to GA's official start date, she took part in a Capitol Hill Day together with the UU Service Committee, that's one of those acronyms, UUSC, the UU Social Justice, UUSJ, and UU Ministry for the Earth, UUMFE, and those who worked with the Reimagining Climate Change will know that name because Reverend Lauren was the chair of the board of the UUMFE. Together, this collective group visited many congressional offices to bear witness to social injustice at the offices of congressional representatives of all political parties. She was understandably exhausted by her week of activity, but she asked me to communicate these thoughts to you on the day I give this talk here. She said this about her GA experience, GA 2025. She's been to many. She said, and I quote, "Being in a room with hundreds of UUs at gatherings with thousands of UUs restored my hope. I didn't realize how frozen from fear I had been, but I felt myself begin to thaw. It's powerful to be together in this way." So, I hope if you've never considered attending a GA conference, you will now have thoughts about thinking maybe you would like to. If you want information on how to start planning for your own personal GA experience, you can begin by letting the board know of your interest. Also, watch Groups IO this week. I'll be posting a list of web links where you can get started to do your own investigation about planning your own GA experience. And I thank you all, and to those on Zoom that I can't see, and I'm hoping my husband is among them. I'm really proud to be a Unitarian Universalist. Thank you.